Hello, welcome to Global Heart Healing Conversations. This is a podcast where we just get into real, true healing conversations so that they can become easier, more normal. And today, my guest is the glorious Dr. Joyce Anastasia, who actually is one of the core practitioners in Global Heart Healing. And she and I are the only two who live in the United States, and we have yet to meet, but we will meet next month. We're both just delighted. So, Joyce, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Joy. And I am delighted to be here. And I cannot believe it has been, I think, over 4 years since we first met online. And it will be fantastic to meet you in person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Joyce, just kind of jumping in, can you just tell us a little bit about your healing journey and maybe kind of what first led you to the path of becoming a healer?
You know, it's so interesting, Joy, because I never would have described it as a healing journey, but my whole life has been about healing for others, healing the planet. And I remember when I was just a teeny little girl experiencing the assassination of our president. And it was the first time I feel like I became conscious of myself as a separate being from my mom. And I even remember all the details about the chair I sat on and my mom crying for the first time in my life and suddenly experiencing a worry of, oh, what's happening here? And literally in my little baby self saying, this is not right. Whatever just happened is not right. And maybe I'm here to address that not rightness and help to bring healing and peace and joy into the world versus violence and separation. And so at a very young age, that began, in addition to having intuitive abilities that were so different than my little playmates and feeling like not that I was so different, but that these healing practices that I saw them as such were something that people weren't used to, and they were rejected instead of embraced, like this is something beautiful to bring into our world.
Mhm.
And the last thing related to all this is that I knew somewhere in my being that every human being was sacred and that everyone deserved to live a healthy, creative, and loving life. And that's really how I stumbled out of my mom's womb.
Yes, that just echoes in truth to me, all of it. And what a beautiful time in this stage of humanity on planet Earth and all of the fascinating parts of this transition for our planet. In a lot of ways, it's best to just consider it fascinating and not allow it to completely, totally be disruptive. But when it's totally disruptive, that's okay too. And we are all navigating in perfect ways. Whether we feel like it's perfect or not, we are. We're being who we're supposed to be. So, Joyce, thank you so much for that lovely answer. And now I'm going to move to what are some of the key practices or rituals that you use in your personal healing work?
Oh, there are so many. depending upon either what's happening to me or what's happening to the people I work with. So some of the primary ones are related to how do we get our bodies to a place of calmness so that we could recognize that we are who we are, that we are lovable, and that our primary work and expression in the world is that we too can love and interact with others. And so meditation is one of the first practices that I use with almost all of my clients. And depending upon what their expression is, they might never have meditated before. So I am teaching them many practices around meditation. There's not just one. If a person is very visual, I might use a guided meditation. But if someone is not visual, then other meditations will emerge in the space and place. But the primary purpose of that practice is to connect each other to our divine source, whatever that is for people. And even if it's our higher selves, for me, it is the divine is my source. Allowing the integration of the body, mind, spirit related to that connection to source is part of the theme of the tools that I use for people and with people. So I might do trauma healing. I might do past life regression. I might do emotional intelligence work with them. I might have them together with me go to a past life, which a lot of people don't do. They place people in a light trance and ask them to go there. So I ask them permission. Can I go with you so that I can too witness as a loving being who is supportive of healing? Can I witness what you are experiencing so that I could better help you to bridge from perhaps a trauma of that past life to heal whatever is happening in this life that's related? I also do intuitive sessions that allow for those from other realms in the unseen worlds to come in and enter if need be, with deep protection. Only that which is for the best and highest good to be allowed in. And that too is a very powerful experience for people, and I feel honored to witness what emerges in that place.
Absolutely. And you're probably going to bring this up, but would you care to touch on the magic of the Theraphi device?
Oh, yes, I was going to bring that up. So, in back of me, which you really can't see right now, but there is a device.
We can see it.
You can see it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
That is based upon Nikola Tesla technology. Now, Nikola Tesla was a very enigmatic person who was steeped in controversy at the time because of his desire to work with energy and energy medicine based upon his own channeling and connection with the divine, messages from the divine that he discerned and distilled with his also engineering and scientific mind. So way back at the turn of the last century, Nikola Tesla created many patents for devices we use now every day: MRI machines, X-rays, motors that we use for our cars, microwaves, for everything. His primary focus, well, he had three primary focuses. One was to try to create free energy for people so that they could live in a more expressive world and not be worried about having heat or cold when they needed it. The second major focus of Nikola Tesla was for healing of our bodies, minds, and spirits. And the third was really to bridge between the other worlds and this world, and to explore phenomena like time travel and all of the things that people think of when they think of parapsychology or psi-energetics that seems to go beyond our bodies, although we all have means by which to access them. So this device focuses really on two of those three focuses. One is for the energetic connection with the all that is, and our healing of our bodies, minds, and spirits. It allows for plasma energetics, which our bodies emit, our electromagnetic bodies, beyond our physical boundaries of our sacred vessels, and interacts with it in such a way as to encourage the optimization of it. So, when you walk into a room and you feel this heavy energy where people might be angry or depressed, well, that energy, just like the energy of this Theraphi device and our energy, affects one another. And in contrast to that, when we walk into a room where people have just, let's say, celebrated a fabulous wedding, where two people are symbolically uniting together and there is just the purest feeling of love in the room, we feel it tangibly. Well, that relates directly to Joy's most beautiful expression of global heart healing. So when we experience the Theraphi device, I use it in intention meditations for personal to global healing. When we have an intention that's very specific in our world and for our own healing, matched with passionate emotions and love at the core, we have the capacity to manifest in ways that we cannot otherwise. And that manifestation has the opportunity to actually show itself in miracles. Not always, but it does. And so global heart healing, just the title of it alone carries the frequency and vibration, just like the Theraphi does, just like Nikola Tesla's intention was, related to we are made up of vibrations and frequencies. And with our intentions and thoughts, they get carried around the globe. So just think of that. Just think of that. Like one loving thought goes around the world over and over again, never ending. Like water, like droplets of
Exactly.
water. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Well, I love you, Joyce. I think that's clear. But Joyce truly, when we met, we just connected. It was like, oh wow, yeah, and we just felt it. Like I feel energy deeply. I feel the Therapy device when it's working. I hope that everybody can, who's listening, I hope that they can feel that all of this, it's not crazy. It's natural. It's just that we haven't been given the chance to actually give ourselves permission to feel it, to be in it, to experience it. And it's safe. It's fine. It's cool. There are ways that you do need to establish beautiful, harmonious, light connection protection. But honestly, you guys, that's all right in your heart. Your heart knows the truth. And so Global Heart Healing had to come to be because of all the things that happened to me. And honestly, Dr. Joyce Anastasia had to be part of Global Heart Healing. And when we met, you weren't fully doctor, but you've done lots of studying. Do you want to tell a little bit about that?
Sure. For a very long time, my initial focus was to get involved in parapsychology. But at the time, there were not the programs that I would have loved to pursue. So I did it on my own. But what substituted for that was to do a dual degree in art and visual arts, visual and performing arts, as well as psychology. And of course, you can't separate the two anyway. And we can't separate a lot of the subjects that people try to separate. But those were the two areas, two avenues I felt like I could most directly serve in the world and to learn about the mind, learning about the mind, beyond the mind. How does our body integrally work with healing practices? So then over the years, I had done so many healing practices and done all of this work in nonprofits and profits and corporations with people related to how can we be our most optimal selves, both within our own lives and through leadership practices, because we actually are serving by being who we are and becoming the best version of ourselves that we can be to teach others just by our living our lives in those ways. We could also do it in other ways too. But this brought me to a place of, I was working for the Foundation for Global Humanity that intersected with other cultures. Their mission was to record, document, and preserve indigenous and contemporary healing ways and leading ways in the world. And in the exposure to that, it brought me to a place of knowing that, wow, our healing really comes from the connection with the divine as it filters through our body. Who teaches that in medicine? Who teaches that in healing practices? And as the more that I investigated this, I stumbled upon Quantum University. And I actually thought that was where I wanted to teach. I applied. They thought I had a PhD already, but I didn't. So I didn't get the job, but they asked me if I would take courses there and finish my PhD there. I loved what they did. Dr. Paul Druin and his team, and he couldn't do it without the team. This beautiful team of people came together to create an integrative medical curriculum that I told him directly in my graduation just recently. It is second to none. The curriculum is second to none. It brought neuropsychology. It brought quantum physics. It brought parapsychology. It brought both the intersection of traditional and natural medicine together through anatomy courses and other courses. Now, when you think of energy anatomy, it's very different than bone to bone, although bones are beautiful too, right? And organs are beautiful in our bodies, but it's beyond the body. The anatomy of ourselves is far beyond our bodies. And that curriculum resonated with me because that's what I've experienced all of my life. So to go through that and to complete it was very challenging, but also very beautiful. And it allowed me to do research like I did with the Theraphi device and doing healing meditative experiments with people who knew what we were doing in terms of who would like the opportunity to not only transform themselves, but to have a ripple effect and impact those around them and possibly even globally and beyond. And so it was this beautiful expression comparing 3 different groups in 3 different areas and how things in our world impacted. Because during that experiment, Lahaina fires occurred, and one of the groups was in Hawaii. We experienced the whole time still the remnants of COVID and what was going on with that. We were not allowed to do it at a hospital or a clinic because of COVID mandates. And so it had to be in person. And I was very respectful of people's privacy, wanted everything confidential. And in so doing, it forced me to have to fly to these different places and do pre and post testing. But that also was a part of the whole thing because what it reflected was not only their care and desire to have these beautiful healing experiences, which they did in spades, but for me also to demonstrate to them how deeply I cared about them as human beings, individually and collectively. Yeah.
So beautiful. So beautiful, Joyce. I know you have traveled and studied extensively spiritual and cultural traditions and bring that so beautifully into all of your practice. And that is just echoed through everything you just said. And what an extraordinary time that we are going through, and how beautiful to bring to it all of your past history, because we're all holistic beings. That's the thing about Western medicine, is it tries very much to make it cut and dried, and it doesn't matter what you eat. Wrong, by the way. We are we are holistic beings, so everything integrally put together, and in such a magnificent form that if you forget the spiritual, the psychological, the emotional, you have forgotten such an integral part. And ancestral and cultural, absolutely all of it. It is all of it. It takes all of it. We are all of it. Each one of us is all of that. I know I've told you this before, but on behalf of all of us, we're so proud of you and we're so delighted for you. And I am so honored that you're part of the Global Heart Healing team. And you've in addition, not everyone knows this, but transformational leadership is also one of Dr. Joyce's specialties, and she gifted Global Heart Healing with a beautiful collaborative strategic planning to bring it all together. And it just was such a beautiful experience. And for that, I also want to thank you as well.
Thank you so much. Joy, everything you just said, made me really aware of, like, all the ancient traditions speak about the ultimate challenge is separation from self and source. Separation, unnecessary separation, right? Everything you just shared about coming back together. And when we realize that we are unique whole beings, even though we feel separated, I have my own sacred vessel, you have your own. All of our beautiful members of our group have their own. And in every way, shape, and form, when we go extreme and out of balance, we forget that we are whole. So in my leadership work, one of the things that I notice is they're steeped in logic and concrete, steeped in it. Everything has to be step by step by step by step. That is so important in their work, right? But then when they get an infusion or their intuition gets evoked, infusion of intuition, the right side of their brain gets activated, their production goes exponential. Their teamwork becomes power with instead of power over. They start to create dream teams because they're doing this necessary balance. Why would we be given a right side of our brain if we're not going to use it? You see? And
Good.
vice versa, right? Vice versa. So then there are those who are in spiritual traditions who are relying all the time on the right side of their brain. And many healers and healing practitioners fall in that, I want to call it kind of a misunderstanding of how we use our vessels for healing in the world. So with individuals who are caught up in the right side of the brain, where they don't understand the step-by-step process or don't even want to deal with it, when it's done in a way that engages their intuition while saying, well, what about logical steps that we can take that will integrate this better? Then they suddenly realize, like, that wasn't so hard. And boy, does that sure allow me to manifest on the planet, because you can't manifest without both sides of your brain. You can't. You know?
Nope.
So it's this beautiful thing to witness. That's real transformation. When people can do that, it's like their eyes light up, they get all excited, and they say, oh, so I'm not compromising because I'm being concrete or because I'm having loving boundaries or whatever it is that people are working on, you see.
So beautiful. So thank you for all of that. I feel like you've really shared transformative healing experiences that have deeply moved you. And I know whether you're a healer or a participant, whether you're involved directly, the healer still experiences that while they're working with the participant. Again, we are a collective. So that brings me to community. So what role does community play in the healing process?
I want to say it takes a village. We are not intended as human beings to be islands on this planet. Simultaneously, it's a beautiful thing to have alone time. And having alone time helps to fuel us, helps to reorient who we wish to be and what we wish to express in the world. But community allows us to co-create in ways that we can't do by ourselves. And it's a beautiful thing to do that. When people are like-minded with that heart energy we were talking about before, and this is not to gloss over the horrors that exist on our planet, the experiences that people struggle with. We know, we each in this group have experienced many challenging events in our lives, life-changing events that have been harmful and creating a lot of trauma. But because we chose to be in the field of healing practices and leadership and carrying that out into the world, we're not afraid to work on ourselves, you know, to do that together, to know what we each carry as human beings, like the leaders on this planet, they're carrying so much trauma. If you can imagine this, that to go through elections in any country on this planet is like having an internal civil war inside of themselves. That may sound strange, but I believe that coming together as a community helps for leaders and each of us to see our own humanity, to see a mirror of ourselves. What is it that we wish to be and create in this world? Do we wish to contribute to the violence, to the fighting, to the duality that exists everywhere? Or do we want to be a little more nuanced in how we express ourselves as human beings with each other and choose instead to see other people as light beings with amazing gifts coming together to perhaps work collaboratively, even if some are not extroverted and some are not introverted, and find ways to, this is a place of the puzzle of the community that you can serve, that you can serve, that you can serve, that you can serve. And there'll be interactive times, many overlaps, hopefully with a lot of loving intention, so that we together create the world we wish to see, which
Exactly.
sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't. But if we stay vigilant about it, be responsible for how we act and be, it could be so joyful
Yeah,
to be on
absolutely.
this planet, you know?
So that's really the power of humanity. And so what does happen with the duality, that is very much, we have duality because we have right brain, left brain. We have that yes, no, either or, positive, negative, all of those things. But we also have this heart, which is the power of humanity. And the heart is not a dual organ. And so when you can just take the brilliance from the brain and create this heart-brain coherence, which then really is the power, truly, the greatest power of humanity is our heart. It is love. And it is when we do heart-brain coherence, then we're bringing this heart consciousness. And that is the collective, that is the community. And you can do that. You can join with the community in total silence, isolated from the rest of the world. You can connect with the oneness that is. And you can also then bring who you are to community. And the community can give you a safe space to be who you are, express your needs, express your goals, express your miracles, express the who that is you in a safe, loving space. And we, at this moment in time, for all of humanity in this epic transition of biblical proportions, this is the time for us to create more and more communities that are filled with love and safety and care and compassion and balance and peace. And we can do that. Thank you, Joy.
How long does it take, Joy, to create heart coherence?
It's so fast.
So fast.
It's so fast.
So fast. I'm so glad you answered that question. So
Okay, we're going to stop playing for a minute. We're going to get to the next question. So, what advice would you give someone who feels disconnected from their heart or from love in their life? Just bringing your advice and wisdom for our beautiful, beautiful audience.
So when I work with people and am giving some kind of suggestions or advice, as you said, I always wish first to see where they are in their space and place. And everyone is different, really, truly different. So sometimes I've seen this happen where people give a suggestion to someone and then the person gets really agitated. So another piece is if I feel called to give a suggestion, I always ask permission.
Absolutely.
Is it okay if I give you some feedback? And especially if people are coming to me and saying, how can I, how can I feel better? Or how can I move from most people lately have been expressing their really extreme anxiety about what's happening on our planet.
Absolutely.
And so that's the piece that I address the most. And I would say probably the most consistent response I say to them is take a deep breath and imagine what you are most grateful for.
Yeah.
What are you most grateful for? And then I might move into what do you experience as your being loving and at peace? What can you reflect on? And for some people, if they have had trauma with human beings, it might not be a human being.
No.
It might be a pet. It might be their experience of watching a sunrise or at a mountain or a beach. And then if there is time, or if I work with people over time, over a period of time, there are things that are really important. Like when people are really conscious and they're coming to me for help, they don't need me to tell them the simple suggestions. They need for me to be very real with them and vulnerable and concretely asking them what has worked and what hasn't. And are there things and activities that you're doing in your life that might be blocking or or contributing to your upsetness? They may be hiding the fact that they have an addiction. They may be hiding the fact that they've been seriously harmed in some way, maybe even by a family member. They may be hiding some traumas that might get addressed. But then there are other things too, like being really discerning about making decisions, and allowing there to be a question about how should I go forward. I will often say to people, is what I'm about to do, say, or be out of fear or out of love? If the answer is fear, I say, stop action now. and then allow themselves to move away from fear into at least a neutral space to take it in, and then make a decision when they're in a space of loving energetics for themselves and for others. Vulnerability. I have a whole bunch of things that I kind of jotted down in my being. Balance, dynamic balance within our lives, releasing emotions that are very valuable but can be very damaging if held too long, like anger and excessive sadness or resentment or jealousy, all those things, addressing those in a way that's healthy. Let's see, connecting with nature.
Absolutely. So let's take that, all of this that you have brought to us for others, and let's pivot just a moment. And may I ask how your own personal healing has evolved over the years?
Okay. I want to describe this as nuanced healing because I'm always working on myself. I'm always learning in a perpetual state of asking, can I be in optimal health in all ways? And my personal healing journey sometimes would take the form of being hit by a 2x4, like being stunned by something that happens in my life. And my current word for this is, over the years, I have learned to be unflappable. And so I was thinking, oh, I kind of sort of mastered that. No, it is an ongoing journey for the rest of my life, and I will never have mastered it. However, I could come pretty close, and it's really nice to be in that place. So the notion of unflappability, I'll give you a couple of really significant examples. When I was growing up, I had dyslexia, and it was super, super hard for me to learn to read. I was a very bright child otherwise, but the teachers kept wondering if I needed to be held back. And I was mortified, like, held back, I'm already like not bored, but like I wanted to learn more and more and more and more. And I had a near-death experience that I didn't connect with this until pretty recently. But my near-death experience, I was on vacation with my family that really, really valued going on vacation because we were not, we didn't have a lot of means, and there were 5 kids. And but at the time, it was a time of safety was no worries when you would go on vacation, unlike today. So I went off as a little 7-year-old. I'm going to go in the water and do whatever pleases me in my connection with nature. And there was a riptide, and I was flipped upside down, hit my head on a rock, and went unconscious, having no idea, and being very, very far away from my family. And in that space of being rendered unconscious, an angel came to me and brought me several visions of my relatives. And I said, wow, what am I doing here? What's going on? My Aunt Norma, my Aunt Bina had already passed. And I was basically told by the angels that, Joyce, you're not supposed to be here right now. We're going to send you back. And I was like, oh, great. Thank you so much. And they sent me back, and I was being revived by a lifeguard, and I was totally fine. They told me they were going to heal my head and other things along the way. So a couple of months later, my my dad had gotten a book from my cousin called Edgar Casey, something about Edgar Casey. And I was absolutely stunned by her description to him. He could care less about this book. And I was like, I gotta read this book, because it was all about healing. It was all about this man who had these beautiful gifts from the divine to help to heal himself and others. So I grabbed the book, and I could only read letters about this big. I was in third grade, but I could not read at a third grade level. But I was determined to figure it out. And I brought that book into my bedroom, and I read and read and read, and I could read it. How did that happen? You see, it was meant to be. I had a divine intervention, and that allowed me to read this fantastic book that allowed me to say, this reminds me of my life. I could take this in. I could be this beautiful being of healing light, and it not be a horrible thing to reject. This was the start of my 2x4 across the head journey of healing, because that not being able to read made me really depressed, you know, and and it helped tremendously. It also led me to helping others to learn to read, helping all of my classmates learn to read. And yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So then that brings us to final question. What does heart healing mean to you personally?
Heart healing is like divine love just wafting through my vessel. So when I think heart healing for myself, I think of being poured through my crown chakra with divine love that touches every part of my cells and core of my being. I also think of being authentically myself, and being in heart healing allows for me to be just who I am, all the foibles and all the beauty, and being able to wallow in it as integrative self of body, mind, spirit, and emotion. And for other people as well, I feel like heart healing is when there is, I almost feel like not only is it a relationship with oneself and the divine, but a relationship of others who are healing practitioners to each other and to others in the world. And that the heart healing is that divine love, an expression of balancing the core of who we are through our hearts, with many other things, but heart is at the core. of what occurs and then sharing it with others. You know, in ancient traditions and in many indigenous practices, it's you don't even say I'm a healer or I'm a shaman. It's actually a sign of like a little bit of a warning, although in the Western world it has a whole different context. But to be a facilitator of is more the word of facilitating of healing, both for the other person and, as Lynn McTaggart and others, Bruce Lipton and the biology of belief and those wonderful investigators and researchers and scientists say, the more that you work to be a facilitator to help heal others, the more that you too will heal.
Absolutely.
So we're not separated. It is like namaste, which is I honor the place that is the same in you as in me.
And that is exactly what global heart healing is. It's what we are here. For me, the feels so clear. It feels so good. It feels so needed and yet not a burden. Let's just all do this together. Let's just all do this together. Let's bring in and unlock heart consciousness and spread a contagion of healing love and light all around the world because we can. And it's not that hard. We can all just do it. We all can do it. And so doing it together makes it so much fun and it's pure joy. It's just such my honor to have had you here with us. And I know, honestly, you and I could talk for another hour. But instead, let me just ask you, would you please share with our audience how they can connect with you? And we will also share these details later, but I would like for you to share them personally.
Absolutely. The first thing I think would be beautiful for people to do is to go to my website because it has a lot of what I've done. And I had a beautiful friend of mine assist me in creating it. And that's www.leadbywisdom.com. And my email is Joyce Anastasia @gmail.com. And my phone number is 415-322-9442. And I actually am a bit unique in this way, but I truly appreciate the personal touch of scheduling people because then it allows me an opportunity to have a little intro chat with them about how I do what I do and what their greatest concerns or needs are.
So, so beautiful. Oh my goodness, Joyce, thank you so much. I just think this was a glorious time for people to get to know you. And for me, it's always such a pleasure. It's a deep internal heart pleasure to hang out with you.
Thank you so much. And sometime in the future, it would be really delightful to give people a flavor of how do you spread that contagion of love in some practices that we could do together.
Absolutely. Let's
Okay.
do it. Yes,
All right.
please.
Sounds beautiful.
Thank you for
Much love.
joining us. Thank you all for watching us. And we hope to see you around the halls of Global Heart Healing in our beautiful world.
Yes. Thank you so much, Joy. Much love to you.
You too, my darling.